Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Before we get into it, can I ask that all you regular viewers who are yet to subscribe, please do so. The very fact you're regulars means you watch. But if you hit the subscribe button, it massively helps the algorithm and pushes us up because we are political, we get pushed down. They don't like political channels. So if you are that regular person, hit the button. It means very little to you, but it massively helps the channel. It gets the truth out there. Now, one of those truths is the fact that a couple of months ago at the conference, Alibaba, the leader of the SNP, said that he will freeze council tax. He did this off the top of his head because he's an idiot, and he hadn't worked out the cost. Now, it's going to cost anywhere between 300 million and £1 billion, depending on if the councils can push their way and get the rises that they actually want. And then the budget came, and in it, Shona Robinson gave them not the billion they needed, not the 300 million you can just about scrape by on, but 130 million. This is clearly nowhere near enough. And the most senior Scottish representative of the Unison union has said it is unacceptable because of the damage it will cause. And we'll take a look at that right now. Here goes. So, unacceptable. Shona Robinson's budget will cause job losses and service cuts for struggling local councils. Well, we know this has got to happen. Either they put up with 130 million that they've been given, which is nowhere near close enough to being even adequate. It is just totally pointless. It's such a small amount, you may as well not bother. It's literally there. And I think that ultimately non-SNP councils certainly, and maybe even a few SNP councils, once they see what's happening, will just ignore Alibaba and just put their rates up anyway. They have to. These cuts are massive and very, very harmful. And the thing is, not only are you losing jobs, I mean, people will lose their jobs. We've already had thousands of jobs being put on notice, and they're going come the end of March because they literally do not have the money to pay them beyond that. But it's also the cuts in services which will be aimed at already the most vulnerable people in society. Now, they've made this decision. The SNP have made this decision. They know what they're doing. People have explained this to them. If they go ahead with this, this is what is going to happen. And they know that. And so, therefore, the fact that it's still going ahead goes to show that even though they know they're going to cause great, great harm, they're prepared to do it because that's the price worth paying for them. The only part of the budget which increased in real terms was independence. At the cost, I think, of people's lives. And now Unison, the biggest union, is coming out and agreeing with me, with you, with anyone who's sensible, that this is the wrong policy and it is a dangerous policy. It is a life-ending for some policy, life-changing for others. Lillian Macer, Unison's Scottish Secretary, blasted the Scottish Government for its budget after it refused to commit the full funding for Humza Yousaf's council tax freeze, meaning potential job losses in the public sector and, I would suggest, potential death from the most vulnerable who need the help that they should be getting. It is, folly. It's absolute folly. What it truly, of course, is hubris. Because he announced the council tax funding. He'd done no work on it. No one else knew about it. He panicked at the conference. And he's got that hubris now. He got that pride in himself that he dare not go back. He dare not say he got it wrong. Because he can never get anything wrong. How dare he get something wrong? But this he has quite obviously got wrong. Shona Robinson and the Scottish Government have been blasted by a leading union over its tax and acts budget, amid fears it will lead to significant job losses, which it already has, and service cuts, which it already has, by already struggling local councils. Unison claimed the public services were under attack from the SNP ministers. The union's Scottish Secretary, Lillian Macer, claimed that Holyrood administration had behaved unacceptably when it announced its spending plans, as it left workers across the public sector worried about their jobs. As well they might be. There's going to be a lot of layoffs here. This is despite the Finance Secretary insisting during her announcement that she was supporting public services, including those delivered by councils, and this support was in the way of effectively cutting their money. One of the main issues for the local authorities is the local council tax freeze, which may be forced on them. It can't be forced. There is no obligation in law for the councils to honour the council tax freeze. There's no mechanism for that to be forced on them. It was only done by an agreement, the Verity House agreement, that they would cooperate and work together. But who was the one who broke that? It was Alibaba. So the councils just go, no, we've got no obligation now. You broke the Verity House agreement. We therefore will not do this. We will not work with you. And we're putting the council tax up. What's he going to do? Park the tanks on the lawn? He can't afford tanks. Miss Macer offered a stinging rebuke to Miss Robinson as she asked her, which valuable public services do you want Unison members to stop providing? Speaking on BBC Scotland's Sunday show, she added, politicians need to be honest about what they're saying. Shrinking the public services means a cut in public services and a cut in jobs. And she challenged the Deputy First Minister to get round the table and discuss what it is you actually mean, instead of threatening public sector workers over the festive period and saying jobs need to go. Miss Macer said, we will again be contacting the Scottish Government in the new year to say that our position is we need to invest in public services. But of course she doesn't care. She's sitting there now abroad in Switzerland in one of the top ranking areas, for skiing and all that, where all the rich and wonderful and beautiful people go. And she's sitting out there. You wonder how much of that has come out of public expense. But it's okay for her. She's earning a ton of money. She can guarantee she's got private health insurance. She's not going to be looking for local services to help her out. Certainly not while she's quaffing champagne and eating caviar halfway up a mountain before doing a bit of skiing. Although, the old abominable snowman there may be looking for a mate. He may have found one. She insisted the budget statement means that basically Scotland has to brace itself for a cut in public services. The Scottish Government are now looking to attack public services in terms of how they are delivered, but also that of the workforce, attacking them, cutting the workers, cutting the services. It's all going a bit wrong, isn't it? And the irony is, of course, it's going to be the SNP voter who will tend to be receiving the sharp end of this. They're the ones that usually tend to be on the lower end of the social scale and who need the most help. But they keep voting for these people. This is what they're getting. They're making their own lives worse. But unfortunately, the SNP are telling them that what they're doing is brave and wonderful. And yes, you've got to suffer, but we're going to get independence. And so they're doing this. They're going to watch relatives die, but going, yay, Granny's dead, but at least we're working towards independence, which will never come. She went on, this is unacceptable behaviour from the Scottish Government. They should be picking the phone up. They should be calling the unions. We should be having that discussion without worrying those members of staff that are delivering those services. The Scottish Government spokesman said ministers have set out in the Scottish budget that they will work in partnership with trade unions to ensure our services remain fiscally sustainable. How can they possibly be fiscally sustainable if you're cutting the budgets? Telling them they can't have a council tax freeze, although they can if they want, but telling them you're going to freeze council tax and then cut their budgets, which are already cut to the bone. Thousands will be laid off, services will be cut, people will die. But that is the SNP, because they're all psychopaths. They don't care about people. And I am coming up. When you have Scotland's biggest union worried about job losses, worried about service cuts, worried about its very existence in terms of its power base, because if it loses all those members from lack of jobs, it shrinks in sort of its effectiveness. I suspect there may well be a series of strikes by Unison workers. Now, Unison are massive. And their strikes affect every aspect of society, really. Can you imagine if Unison went on strike across Scotland simply because the funding isn't there? I think they should. I think they should. And I think they should threaten it. And I think they should threaten it in front of Alibaba and in front of Shona Robinson and say, the ball's in your court. Cough up, give the local authorities the right money, and we'll call off the strike. And of course they can't, because they've already spent it, haven't they? They've spent it on foreign embassies. They've spent it on spin doctors. They haven't spent it where it needs to be spent. On people. Thank you very much for watching. I'll stop there. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.